Hey Jay,
Hey, Christine, how's it going?
good, good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm happy to be with you.
Yeah. Thank you for accepting my invitation. So I know I interviewed Billy, and Billy has allowed great things to talk about you. So I was like, and you guys used to work at Tesla, so I thought, oh, I gotta have Jay on. So, and I've been seeing your posts and everything on LinkedIn. So why don't we start by you introducing yourself first, and then we get started talking about mindfulness and LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful that Billy, in a way, brought us together. He's someone I look up to, a mentor, one of my dearest friends. So, yeah, a little background on me. I'm in the space of helping professionals who are overwhelmed, overworked, overstressed, especially in the environment that we're in now, to stay productive, to still get results, and also take time for themselves and practice self-care, and that's through the understanding and the application of mindfulness. And so my story behind that has to do with my own personal practice, as well as some of my experiences of where I work professionally, and realizing that I have something I got through that I think a lot of people could find value in.
Mhm. Yeah, so tell me, I mean, so you used to work at corporate in Tesla and then you left your job. So I'm just, like I'm also on that same boat, right? Like I'm unemployable, so maybe you and Billy are also unemployable. So from your experience of working with people, like I mean, I'm just curious, like it just feels like, people in the especially in the Silicon Valley, you used to work in Tesla, the Silicon Valley, like there's always the rat race of always moving up and up and up. There's and then like you say, you used to travel a lot, so I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stress. So I'm just like curious, like what your opinion about that is, and like how many people are really, like I guess, mindful about what they're doing. Are they really happy what they're doing at work in the corporate world, with this rat race and stuff like that? Well, it wasn't for me. It took me a long time, and I'm just really happy where I'm at right now. I have a very easygoing lifestyle schedule now, so I am where I want to be. And then yeah, I don't turn back and look. I was like, oh, I want to go back. So it's like I will never go back again. So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I would say that of course, it always depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
My experience was that it was challenging in the environment to be content. It's one
Mm-hmm.
thing, I have my mindfulness practice, and I can, be able to manage through adversity. But when you're always in that environment where it's fast paced and it's always changing, it could be a struggle for anybody. I think even the Dalai Lama, you put him in that situation, and it's going to be tough even for him, right? And so the question becomes: is this something that feeds your inspiration and your passion, or
Mm-hmm.
is it taking away from it?
Mm-hmm.
And the question, you said it really well before, is that you recognized it in you, right? You realize it in yourself. And I think that people have to come to that recognition on their own. If this is something that is fueling you, then keep going. I know some people who love the work at a place like Tesla or Google and others, where it's like constant going, but it drives them. It feeds their soul, right? It feels their core. And
Mm-hmm.
that's great. But I think once it's recognized, if it is recognized,
Mm-hmm.
that it's taking away from your contentment, where you
Mm-hmm.
can't find joy in it anymore. At that point, and this is the experience I had, it's worth taking the risk. Because here's the thing: what's the worst case scenario, right? If you were to leave and you were to try something, you could
Mm-hmm.
always go back to something else. It's not like,
Yes.
you won't have that opportunity. But if you don't ever try, you'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeling that, I always say take the risk, go for it,
Mm-hmm.
without feeling like there's no turning back. You might feel that way after you try it, but if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work out, there's always other options available.
Yep. That's what I told myself. So like when I quit my job May of 2019, so of course like it took me about a month of going back and forth. So one of the things that actually made me feel safer was actually telling myself, I'm gonna give it a year, and then like if it doesn't work out, meaning like I'm not even probably not even making it, or like surviving, making enough money to survive, then I'm gonna go back to corporate, because corporate will always be there, right? So luckily I don't have to go back. But yeah, that was one of the things that actually, like, my my backup. Like, okay, then I can just go back to core. There's always something to do. I can go back to data analytics or any of my previous career before. So yeah, I mean, I think like as long as you have a good plan. So I'm not sure like how did you do your exit strategy on quitting? Like how was the journey to exiting Tesla?
I didn't
Or did,
have one.
okay.
And so uh, I'll tell you the
Okay.
story. So
Uh-huh.
the way it worked at Tesla was it was a time where Tesla was going through some difficulty, and there was a lot of layoffs. And so I've made it through multiple layoffs. My role was there, and there was so much more to do. And then there was a round of layoffs, and I was given a choice personally. They said, Jay, you could stay
Oh, okay.
and you can keep your role, or if in other words, the way it's kind of works is like you kind of save somebody else's job ultimately if you
Mm-hmm.
decide. It's not presented that way, but ultimately that's the result.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and at that point, Christine, all of my closest mentors, all the people that I rose up the ranks with, they had exited at that point. And I realized, like I was describing it before, it wasn't fueling me the way it was before. And that was my personal experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so I decided to walk away without a plan. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you how it went from there. It was okay, network, make some calls, go get lunch with this person, jump on
Mm-hmm.
a call with that person. And everything I experienced, every time I got to lunch with the CEO, it was be a great conversation, but I felt it in my gut. This was not right. And I've
Yeah.
learned throughout my experience to trust that, trust the intuition.
Yep, yep.
And the intuition told me not this, not this, not this. And so I ended up just letting go.
Mm.
I just let go and I said, whatever comes my way is going to come my way. And in
Yep.
doing that, Christine, opportunities presented itself to be a consultant, to go out and help
Mm-hmm.
other companies and
Mm-hmm.
offer my talents to them in ways where it was more, my own business. And it just
Mm-hmm.
transpired to where I realized now is the time for me to do the work that I believe I'm here to do. And that is to help those who are experiencing what I experienced and bring them mindfulness so they could build their resilience and be able to manage through anything.
Yeah, I love this stuff. I'm a very spiritual person, so I'm really into all this intuition and all that, and I use that on my practice as well. So, okay, so what's the easiest way to know if it's your intuition talking or is your ego talking?
That's such a great question. And I have asked a lot of people what they think. And here's
Mm-hmm.
my way of describing it.
Mm-hmm.
Intuition happens without thinking prior. So, in other words, it's something that arises without having the mind judging or trying to control the situation or having any expectation. It's something that you feel in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And fear, right? Or, where you're getting into a space of uncertainty, or I'm not sure. Do I? There's always a fear behind it, and you can observe it in the moment. Is this
Mm-hmm.
intuition based off of a fear that I have, or is this something that arose naturally on its own? So I would say
Mm-hmm.
if there's any association with fear, with judgment, with attempting to try and logically figure out
Mm-hmm.
what happens, it's not intuition. Intuition
Mm-hmm.
happens on its own, and there is no thinking involved.
Okay. So what if like let's say I'm trying to decide between I don't know, I guess buying a home between one area to the other. So how would you use your intuition to buy one over the other? Like you have one area here you like, the other one you like, and they're both kind of so don't not based on logic, like what would you advise if they just use their intuition?
Yeah, I would say when if you sit down and let's say practice meditation, something I do daily,
Mm-hmm.
and you consider the life in one place and the life in another, rather than going through all the pros and cons and making a list, see what your
Mm-hmm.
body tells you.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I imagine myself in Las Vegas, right? And I imagine being there, or I imagine myself in California and I'm being there, how does my body respond?
Mm-hmm.
And really, that requires being still. It requires, practicing a meditation in a way where you are present, the thoughts are gone, you're just there, you're still, and then you allow this to come to mind and then see how the body responds. And in many instances, you might find that when the body doesn't have or responds positively to both, it might be that either way you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like one's right or one's wrong. Both are right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to find your journey in either wherever you land.
Yep. Got it. Okay. I love that. Like usually like it's like you just have to quiet your mind and just listen to the intuition. I think like we just get too caught up with our ego that we just don't know how to just quiet and just like go back into your heart and just feel it. Like what feels better, what inspires you, and then just kind of more lean into that. So that's kind of how it has helped me. Even like me, like, I this is like I was telling you, this is my 6 weeks in Vegas, and then I actually haven't felt lonely because then I'm just so in touch with my intuition. I just go with the flow. Like I posted, either going with the flow of the universe or are you forcing? So it's like, are you forcing or are you flowing? Like, at work, right? Are you forcing your career? Are you forcing this? Are you forcing that relationship? Are you forcing? Are you forcing your business? Are you forcing this? So I think like once you tap into just the flow, it's just like, I don't know, things just kind of work out. I don't know. That's been my experience. And I use my intuition and mindfulness to just kind of go with the flow of life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the way you just described it, and I explain it very similarly. I usually use the analogy of a river,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I do this visualization every day. This is something I personally practice,
Mm-hmm.
where I see myself in a river, and I see myself trying to go against the current.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
when you're going against the flow of life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
when you do that, all you're doing is exerting all this energy and you're resisting the present moment of what the present moment is showing you. And
Mm-hmm.
what you have to do is let go
Yep.
and allow the water to take you
Mm-hmm.
wherever it may lead you. And when you do
Exactly.
that, the world opens up in a way that I don't even know how it works, to be honest. I don't have all the scientific
Mm-hmm.
reasons why this
Mm-hmm.
happens, but I've experienced it happening, and I've heard so many stories of others who say the same thing that you just said. Once I let go, once I allowed, once I just surrendered to what the world had for me, everything changed and there wasn't any resistance, and
Mm-hmm.
I got amazing results from it.
Okay, so for people who just kind of like, well, what did you just said? So what explain more, what does it mean to surrender? I know what it means, but then in your words, what does it mean to surrender? Like it's like you're like, okay, you're gonna quit your job. It's like, do you just surrender and just be like, oh, okay, just sit and then wait for whatever comes my way? So what exactly is surrendering?
Yeah, and that's where there's a challenge in the English language because the word surrender has so much negative connotation. It's like surrendering with a white flag, right? And like to, in war or something. But that's not what I mean by surrender. Surrender does not mean being passive, and it does not mean allowing people or situations to walk all over you. Surrendering is more of an allowing and an accepting of the the present moment based off of what it's showing you. And it really is just the way I said a moment ago. It's not resisting. It's it's seeing things objectively as they are
Mm-hmm.
and not letting the ego, the mind,
Mm-hmm.
convince you to try and control what
Mm-hmm.
you can't control. So it really does come down to control. The mind wants to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when you surrender, right, you're not surrendering like you're laying down on the ground and you're saying, I'm giving up on life. You're
Mm-hmm.
surrendering to the flow of life and not letting your decisions be based off of the thoughts of fear. And I see Kyle, even in the comments there, he talks about
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah,
And
we're
so,
gonna answer the question in a bit. Mm-hmm.
yeah, fear isn't controlling the decisions. You're surrendering to what is, to the present moment.
Mhm. Yeah, so Kyle was saying fear will always be there as long as you continue to grow. Do you believe there's or something else?
Oh, Kyle, absolutely believe this. The difference is how do you relate to the fear? How do you manage it. And maybe manage isn't even the right word. I'm going to stick with the word relate, because I don't care who you are, how much you've accomplished, how many hours of meditation. I believe we all experience fear, Kyle. As you're saying, what you're saying is spot on. The difference is, when we experience the fear, are we identifying with it and
Mhm.
therefore letting the fear dictate our decisions? Or are we looking at the fear objectively and seeing it more as a signal,
Mhm.
so that way we can recognize that on the other side of it is transformation or growth, the way you described it. So how you relate to it is all that matters, not the fear itself.
Yep, exactly. I like that. So okay, let's talk about money, because like I know you quit your job, so money, I mean like I mean, okay, you were working at Tesla, so that's I'm sure you made good money there. Silicon Valley, six figures, so we all know that. So tell me more about I guess your mindfulness story and the money situation. Like, how did you I guess like quitting any job, the biggest concern for a lot of people is about their finances. So how did you
Sure.
get to the point where I guess you're like, I mean, I knew my journey, like I'm not making as much as before, but I'm a lot happier and I'm making enough to survive, more than enough to survive, to live a life I want. And then that's more than enough. I think like a lot of people, they are in a rat race because they just don't know what they need, and they think, okay, making more is gonna make them happy. So I'm curious to hear like what your story is around the money situation and around this.
Sure, sure. So one thing that a mindfulness practice helps to achieve is to be able to look at oneself objectively and see the shortcomings. I'll use that word lightly because I don't want to be judgmental of myself, but the areas that I'm not so naturally great at, and the things that I am naturally great at.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized over the years that how I manage money and how my beliefs about money weren't great.
Mm,
And so I realized this at my time at Tesla. And so how I worked through it was,
mhm,
I'm very fortunate. I have an amazing girlfriend who has a very good handle on money,
mhm,
and I would ask her for help because
mhm,
I wasn't the type of person that could budget really effectively.
mhm,
That was not it's not naturally what I do, and it's not naturally it's something that doesn't come naturally to me.
mhm,
So when
mhm,
making this decision and figuring out financially where I'm going to go next, and even now to this day, how I budget myself with my business and all that, I
mhm,
realized that I've realized a few things. One, that I have to be honest with myself that these things are not my strengths.
mhm.
And two, if I have someone in my life who I can go to for advice and help and support, I should go to that person.
Yep.
And my girlfriend Alex is the person I go to, as well
Mhm,
as some other friends who have helped me to figure out how to invest wisely.
mhm,
And yeah, I would say that my relationship with money has improved significantly, because years ago I had thousands of dollars in credit card debt, and I
mhm,
would spend foolishly because I wasn't aware. I just wasn't
mhm,
aware.
mhm,
Today, I am more aware, and
mhm,
I think through my decisions, and I filter them through another person, my partner,
mhm.
who helps me a great deal before I go ahead and jump to a decision on how to spend my money or how to save my
Got
money.
it. Well, thank you for sharing. So I'm just curious, what was your money beliefs and how did you I mean, what is the new belief now?
My money belief was that, how do I summarize this accurately? That debt was something that everybody had, and it was okay to have it.
Yes, I
And
think 90% of Americans probably right.
yeah,
Okay.
this is me being honest, right? This is my
Yeah.
my moment of truth. I
Mhm.
believe that debt was perfectly normal, and that somehow the debt would
Yeah.
just go away in the future.
Magic.
Right, just like magic. Poof, one day it'd be gone.
Yeah. So Okay, so curious, like how were you raised around money? Like I mean, like how was your parents like around money? That like that I guess somehow you probably got this somehow from someone or something, that your environment, that it's okay to have, and then nobody has taught you about how to be better with money. So yeah, I'm just curious to hear about that.
Yeah, happy to share. So my my father was someone who, for example, would have all the bills just stacking up and not really checking them, not
Mm,
really being on top of it. He was making good money, but he wasn't saving it. He would
mm,
spend it on, vacations and things like that, in cars.
mm,
And when it came for me to go to college, it was like, oh yeah, just go take student loans. I
mhm,
mean, that's just the norm. So everything I saw in terms of the example being set and the direction that I was given
mhm,
was to go ahead and just, to spend, to take out more debt, and let money be something that you deal with in the future, not something that you plan for now to
mhm.
prepare for the future.
Yep. Yep. That's great awareness, and thank you for being vulnerable. You're not alone. I mean, almost all my clients who think like that is usually because of their past, and that's what we have to work through. And that's awesome that you found a partner that actually know you guys are in the same team to help you. Because the worst thing is that if I have a couple and then both of them are not good with money, so I have to work on them individually, then as a couple. But at least like both of you, and then like that's and then you come from a place that you practice mindfulness, so that's the first step, right? Awareness, so you want to change, and also you have the motivation to change, so that's why you have changed your relationship with money. So that's really awesome. So okay, so if you have, from what you've learned, like what can you share with other people on how to start being mindful about their money, to start changing their relationship based on your own experience?
I think you're covering it really well in the questions you're asking, because I would say to do exactly what you just said, which is to own up to the beliefs that are inhibiting you, to
Mm-hmm.
just be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And once you are honest and you see the problem, then make it a priority to be aware throughout your day, like make it an intention throughout your
Mm-hmm.
day as to how you are spending and how you are saving your money.
Yep.
So it all comes down to, you said it before, it all comes down to awareness, it comes down to intention. And I would say seek out help if you do need
Mhm.
help. It's not a don't be scared to ask for help, because the problem, and I'm sure you agree with this, and I'm sure that you have said this before, the problem is we're not educated on money from a young age.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't learn that in school, you don't learn that at home, where are you gonna learn it? And
Yeah,
when? It's just so sad. Like money is so important. It drives our economy. Like, it's just not part of the law, like requirement. Like we have English, we have math, but there's no personal finance. Even I think mindfulness or like personal life skill, growth or spirituality, I think it should be integrated somehow as like part of the curriculum. Like, how can you start being mindful so you can start being happy? Like, so because then there's just too much focus on like, okay, grades, whatever, but what about your internal happiness, what your soul wants? So I think like we start teaching that. I mean, I wish if I when I could turn back, like someone was there, because like I didn't get nurturance from my parents. So I think if I'd learned that in school, then I think I would have learned how to like nurture myself better, because I didn't have that growing up. So I really had to figure that out on my own much later, and then it wasn't a happy time when growing up. So I think that's really important, and finances is also very important. So hopefully that will change soon. So okay, I don't think we really deep dive into like what exactly is mindfulness and what it isn't. And please, I know you shared with this before our call, like how did you got into this mindfulness? Like what is your story? Okay, so what is mindfulness and how did you got into this? I mean, you're doing sales in Tesla, and then like why? What switch? What was your journey into mindfulness?
sure. I'll explain it
Mm,
as simply as I can. It's the definition I use is maintaining awareness of the present moment objectively, and with acceptance.
Mhm.
So that is to do so non-judgmentally. So what does that do for you, right? In the simplest way I describe what it does for you is it creates space between stimulus and response. So if you think
Mhm.
about your life consists of stimuli, things happen, situations, people come into your life, COVID, all these things that occur. These are stimuli, right? And they happen throughout our day. And then life consists of just a stimuli and a response, a stimuli and a response. How do we respond to that? And it's always, always happening. Now,
Mhm.
when we are not mindful, not aware, there is no space between those two things. We simply react, and we react according to our conditioning, according to our programming. What we, as you were kind of describing before, right? No one raised, let's say myself, no one raised me to really understand money. So I would react to the stimuli of something happened outside of me, a situation with money. I would just react according to my conditioning. But what mindfulness has given me is a space by which I can look at the situation objectively. Here's what
Mhm.
it is. And then look at how I'm responding to it, whatever the feelings are, whatever the thoughts are, and then
Mhm.
make a decision as to what is the right response according to this situation. So
Mhm.
that's the way I like to best describe it is it's that space between stimulus and response, and mindfulness will help you to grow that space. And we all have the capacity to do it. We all have the wiring to do it, but we have to rewire our brains a bit because we're not trained to do this. Our brains are trained to be reactive.
Mhm.
Mindfulness helps you to be more responsive. And how
Got
I got into it was years ago, I had, and oftentimes this is what happens, right? It's a tragedy occurs. And I
Mhm.
lost my father, and it was a sudden heart attack where he wasn't sick. Just one morning, I got the call and I
Mhm.
went to the hospital, and he passed. And so
Mhm.
following that, I began seeking answers. I read everything I could about personal development, about how to live better, how to be happier. Because I realized, look, my father had all the dreams in the world. He went to sleep that night thinking he had work the next day. And
Wow.
this could happen to any of us. And so,
Yeah.
what am I doing with my life? How do I live life better? And I kept hearing about mindfulness, and I was reading about these incredible people, famous people who did this practice of mindfulness where they would meditate and they would be more aware, be more present, and it helped them tremendously. And I finally said, all right, fine, I'll give it a shot, because my initial thought was, this is not for me, this is for yogis, this is for monks, this is not for me. But
Mhm.
I finally gave it a try, and it changed everything in my life. It was the
Yeah.
game changer, transformative. Helped me with my personal life, dealing with personal issues, and it helped me at work tremendously, by which I was able
Mhm.
to join a company like Tesla and work my way up within 4 years from being a salesperson to running a national training program. And I
Mhm.
credit this ability to look at things objectively and accept the present moment as it is, as to
Mhm.
how that being this practice being what led to those results for me.
Mhm. So how old was your dad when he passed?
How old was he?
Yeah.
He was 55.
Oh wow, that's quite young. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean like that. That's why like it's for me. It's important that like okay. So I'm not a big fan of the FIRE movement, FIRE, which is Financial Independence Retire Early. I'm not sure if you heard of that, but
Mhm.
they're on to like retiring. Oh, you if you're into finance, like everyone will hear that FIRE movement. So it's all about retiring as early as you can. So people like save like 80% of their stuff to just saving, so they're really frugal. There's even a documentary about it, like it was going about the pros and cons about the fire movement. Some people just get just too frugal, and then like they're all about just retiring early. So I don't really believe in that. I believe in like living the best life you have now, but at the same time saving for your future. Always think about your future self as well, but enjoy the present, but not like, so there's always a balance, right? You can't just, oh, enjoy today but not worry about tomorrow. So those people get in trouble because they don't never think about their future, right? Of course, if you're in Vegas, I'm meeting a lot more people like that who just like who makes a lot of money and then they know how to spend money too. So you always have to have a balance, right? So enjoy life now, but at the same time, make sure that you are thinking of your future. So you're putting money in your 401k and then saving and growing your money as well. So it's really yeah, like you said, mindfulness, being aware, like like enjoy now and enjoy the future, because first of all, you don't know when you're gonna pass away. Like, I don't know, who knows, I'm gonna pass tomorrow, but who knows, I might live till 90 too. So you don't know. So that's why having a trust is also important. I actually have a couple of estate attorney who came in, like making sure something happens to you, then you know who you're gonna pass your legacy on as well. Okay, so tell me, so how do you apply mindfulness to your date? Okay, so actually no, I just had one question that pop up. So you said, okay, with your money stuff, like if you have mindfulness, then you kind of, that will able to get you to stop before you react. So like, I mean, like, let's say you really, someone really pissed you off, and then that happens, right? So like, how have you handled that? Like, like how, like, what's the easiest way? It's such a thing. We're all gonna have trigger points, especially for
Sure.
things that maybe we haven't worked through. I mean, we're only human, okay? So I can't say I'm 100%. Like, people are gonna tick us up. So, what do you normally advise your clients or advise yourself or on how to handle that?
Yeah. If it's a situation where it's like, one off, a stranger, it's not someone who you deal with regularly, right? Who triggers you. Pause is the first thing. Pause.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a second and recognize that the person who said those hurtful words,
Mm-hmm.
they are the ones who are suffering. They are the ones who are lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And having that kind of compassion for the other person
Mm-hmm.
without letting them walk all over you doesn't mean you're doing so where you're saying, oh, I'm going to let this person treat me however I want. No, you still
Mm-hmm.
then respond to
Mm-hmm.
protect your core values,
Yeah.
especially if they're infringing on them,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that doesn't cause you unnecessary distress.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, when it does, if you allow the other person to really allow that anger to continue and rumble and grow, you're giving them power. So I give my clients a 4-step process to do this, and the words are rise up, but I'll quickly just cover rise, which is the technique, and that is to first recognize your response, the anger, recognize it,
Mm-hmm.
the R of rise. Then I is inquire. Inquire with acceptance. Look in, find out what's happening. Where is the anger? It's somewhere in my body. I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the S stands for to see. See what's happening. See the situation. And as I described before, it's the other person that's holding anger, that's holding hatred. They're the ones who are suffering. See that. See that. But see that your emotions are within you.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, if you have the emotion within you, it's within your control, and you can decide as to whether you're going to identify with it or detach from it. And
Mm-hmm.
when you look at an emotion directly and you see it there, you can actually viscerally like look at it and notice that it's something that is the object of your attention. You can then let go of it. And E stands for effortlessly release. Allow it to be let go. Now, does it happen like this the first time? Absolutely not. But
Mm-hmm.
with practice, if you can be more mindful, what ends up happening is, sure, you get triggered, you get angry. That's a normal response, but it doesn't have the same grip over you as it used to.
Mm. Okay, so you talk about letting go. Like, okay, so forgiveness is about letting go too, right? So, like, I know some people, or, forgiveness, I feel is such an important part of mindfulness, of just being happy. Because then, like you said, like holding on, like not forgiving is holding on to the anger. Is actually, that it actually harms you more than the other person. So, like, if you, I don't know if this is part of your work, do you teach your clients like how to forgive as well? That's part of the mindfulness practice. Like, if so, like, how do you teach your clients how to forgive and just let go?
Yeah, you're absolutely right in that it does more harm to the person who's not
Mhm.
forgiving. And it depends
Yep.
on the client, of course,
Mhm.
if it's recognized that that's the issue.
Mhm.
But the way I kind of describe it is, it's like having this poison pill that you said that this person gave to you, and
Yeah.
then you put it into your own mouth and you swallow it
Yep.
by choosing not to forgive, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
And so how I advise my clients is, I either talk through this or through journaling. You could
Mhm.
get to the place where you ask yourself, what would it mean, or how would it impact me if I were to forgive this person? Like, what would be the result of that? How would I
Mhm.
feel if I forgive this person? How would I feel if I held on to it?
Mhm.
And
I'll
when
feel
you,
self-righteous. That's usually the word. Like I'm right. They don't want to let go because letting go means it's sort of like you're admitting you're not right. Right? And
right,
like, okay, yeah. So
but even in that, right, it's where's that coming from?
Mhm.
And with my clients, I get to a place where I help them to see that there is the ego mind that's holding on to wanting to be right.
Yep,
But
exactly.
the way to live a life of content is not to be focused on being right, but to be focused on what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And what's right is to forgive, to let go, and to not hurt yourself
Mm-hmm.
for something that someone did in the past that's over and gone.
Exactly. You don't want to keep reinventing that. Okay, so now let's talk about LinkedIn because you have been very very active on LinkedIn. And so like yeah, just share with us like I mean I know Billy was telling me that you guys are working together on something, whatever, group coaching or course. So just share with us your journey on LinkedIn and how has LinkedIn helped you, I guess, business wise and networking wise. And yeah, for anyone who just joining LinkedIn, like what can they do to grow on LinkedIn? I know you do your stuff purely organic. So yeah, for people like if they're trying to grow organically, like what can they do to try to tap into the whatever all the benefits that LinkedIn has to offer?
Sure. Happy to share. I love LinkedIn. I love the platform. The best community there is, online
Yeah.
community.
Hmm.
So before I joined LinkedIn, or before I was active on LinkedIn, I'm not a social media guy. I had
Me
nothing
too.
going on Facebook, nothing on Instagram, nothing. It's not the world that I've spent a lot of time on. But I knew that I wanted to share this message with the world, and I wanted to engage with people and connect. And I figured LinkedIn would be the best place to do it.
Yep.
And so, my journey, I started with, I maybe had 1,500 total connections, and now I'm somewhere over 20,000 followers. And the platform has been incredibly just gracious and positive and encouraging. How I got to really grow on the platform was, it's one word: giving. I find that the platform is one where if you give, and you give without conditions, without expectation, without hoping and holding on to what other people you'll get out of it in return, you just give,
Mm-hmm.
things come back. And so how do you give? You engage with other people's content in the most genuine and authentic way. You
Mm-hmm.
don't go in and leave a comment, great post. You go in and you celebrate what the person said, and
Exactly.
you give your additional value to the person's post. And you do this, you don't have to spend 10 hours a day doing this. You can do that for 30 minutes in one day. That's it. 30 minutes of just engaging with real comments from the heart of other people's content. You send out connection requests to people in a very personalized way that shows them what you got from their content or what you appreciated about their profile. Those are the ways in which, that's why Billy and I think we mesh so well, is because we both believe in being authentic and genuine and not using the hacks and all these other ways to grow on this platform. You don't need that. There is organic ways to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that's, so far I haven't even talked about content. Those are just things that You can do, and a direct messaging is another thing. When you're direct messaging people, be genuinely curious about them. Seek
Mm-hmm.
out what interests them. Go get on networking calls and just get to know people, right? And when those relationships form, things just start to happen naturally. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, with content, any content that you put out, be authentic, be you, give value. Don't worry about the metrics. Don't get caught up in all the vanity numbers. Just give and
Yeah.
give, and I promise you, you will receive. There will be value, or there will be results that come from it.
Hmm. Okay, so to summarize, you said like so daily you do about 30 minutes of organically giving authentic comments to like maybe just go on your news feed for 30 minutes, scroll through that, see which one speaks to you, and then give genuine comments, not like great posts are awesome, whatever, blah blah. So to speak at least to what they like, have a like a genuine connection, and then you said you send connection requests to people whose content you like and then personalize it, right? So I guess those are the generally if you're gonna about engagement, right? So now did I miss anything else or
I mean, there's
Mhm.
we could spend an hour, I think, talking about all the LinkedIn stuff, but those are components that I think are very helpful when wanting to grow. There are more things, but those two things for sure, absolutely.
Okay. So what about for content? So like what would you advise someone in terms of content? And then like should they start? I mean like if they don't have if they haven't established their audience yet, then it's hard for them to have engagement. So how would you advise someone, what to do first before posting content, and then what kind of content should will work?
The first thing I would say is don't hesitate to post because of the concern that you won't get a lot of engagement. When you're ready to post. And when I say ready, that doesn't mean waiting until you get to a certain connection number or follower number, right? What I mean by ready is you
Mhm,
know exactly what it is that who you are. You know
mhm,
exactly who you are. You know
mhm,
exactly what drives you, what your passion is, and what you are going to give to others. You have a very clear intent as to what you're trying to do on the platform, how you're trying to grow, and what
mhm.
what is your product, your brand, your service, whatever it is. Once you know that and you're very clear, clarity is important. You must be clear.
Yep.
Then you post in ways that feel right to you. If you like being on video, go ahead and do video. If you're someone who loves the written word, do that. If you like to be creative with images, do that as well. But let it be not what you think others do that works, right? It's okay to learn from others, but don't try and just mirror what other people do. Do you do it consistently? That is the most important thing of all the things we're talking about. Do it consistently. The people who have high production videos that spent hours developing one LinkedIn video but post once every 5 or 6 days won't do nearly as well as the person who speaks from the heart consistently every single day, even if
Yep.
it's just a text post.
Yep.
Just be consistent with whatever it is that you're doing when you start to post.
Yep. So when you started, like, how was your engagement? And then, like, how often were you posting when you just first started doing your posting?
So when I first started, I mean, I'd get, maybe 10, 12 likes or, a few comments here and there. And I was posting every day, except Saturdays. I never like that. Just for me, Saturdays, I tend to not post. I take
And you
one day
post
off.
Sundays?
I do post Sundays. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Usually
But
some people take off Sundays, but okay.
yeah, I just worked out where Saturday's my day to be completely off of LinkedIn. I just take off
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't even really look at the platform. Sometimes I'll do to catch up on direct messages, but
Yeah.
otherwise
Mm-hmm.
I don't. But I would post every day, and with this kind of consistency of commenting on other people's posts and sending out of the connection requests and always responding to the comments on my posts. I
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding it a little bit more challenging these days because I get a little bit more volume in comments. So sometimes it's hard to keep up, but I try my best to respond to every comment. But I'd always do that as well. respond to every single comment. And if anybody commented that wasn't in my network, I'd of course send them a connection request, thanking them for leaving a comment on my post. Or for people who liked my post, I'd send them a connection. Thank you for
Yep.
liking my post.
Yep.
And so when I first started, that was what I did. And then I would see, those numbers grow. But coming from a place of mindfulness, I remind myself and I remind everybody who's listening, what you'll find is once you get 10 likes, you go, oh, I got 10 likes. Now I expect at least 10. And then you
Yeah.
get to 50 and you're like, oh, I got 50. The next post, if
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
28, you feel like I did miserable, right? That is
Yeah. Yeah.
the human mind playing a trick on you.
Hmm.
You just would have last week appreciated 28 likes. You would have
Yeah.
thought you were
Yeah.
killing it, but you forgot, right? Don't
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
caught in that. If you see yourself, just be aware of that and remember that it's all about the giving. It's all about the value you're adding to other people's lives.
Yep. Yep. I was caught in the metrics too before, and now it's just like I'm just like, you know what, is I've been there before, like and I just don't want to get too caught up in that anymore. Like I just want a more relaxed approach. So that's why I'm not as active anymore on LinkedIn. I know how to really grow my engagement, but now I just kind of step back and I'm just like okay with where I'm at right now. So thank you for sharing. So yeah, Jay, this has been a really interesting conversation. So where can people find you? Are you just on LinkedIn, or like, okay, if they want to schedule a call with you, like what website and how do they reach out? Obviously, I'll tag you on this, and then when I have time, I'm gonna convert this to a podcast as well, so people can hear it. So, but yeah, how can people reach out to you?
I appreciate it, Christine. So my website is jayabassi.me, and anyone can go to my website, see a little bit more about what I do, read a little bit more about the services that I offer, and you can contact me directly through the website. Or LinkedIn is the other great place to find me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not the best on other social media platforms. I should be better at that. But I'd say those are the two best ways, jayabassi.me or via LinkedIn.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. This has been really good. I've learned some new things about being mindful. So,
Uh,
all right, Jay, thank you so much. Have a good night and have a good night, everyone. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Take care, everybody.